We want them to have a choice. Poor people don't usually have choices. They have to do what might be available for them. They have to go to this school because the state says this is the one you go to. We want them to have choices all along and choose where they want to study. Five basic questions: who, what, when, where, and why of these nativity schools. I, as you can see down here, am the executive director of what we call the Nativity Educational Centers Network. That is, as a network of schools, we are only 4 years old. But as you will see in this presentation, our first school started almost 35 years ago. But it's been a slow process of other people seeing what we were doing and saying, we think we can do the same. And we would like to join this network of schools trying to do the same. A second point that's very important for you to remember. Most people in the world think that the United States, everybody has money falling out of their pockets, that everybody is as rich as possible. And that is not true. There are specific peoples, especially those whose ancestors were brought to the United States as slaves from Africa, who went through a period of both slavery where it was illegal for them to learn to read and write, and later on when they were put in segregated or special schools where they were given the poorest of equipment. They were given the possibility maybe to do very elementary education, but they had to go through big struggles in order to be able to study at a university level. And in most cases, the university was closed to them because of the color of their skin. These are the people that we work with in the nativity schools. The second class of people are those who have come as, as recent immigrants, mainly from the countries of Latin America and Central America, who again have immigrated and are very, very poor, who have families that do not have much education. Their parents maybe had a second grade or a third grade, and so they do not understand the importance of education, and therefore would be always kept down in the poorest jobs. You will see in the who, what, when, where, and why that our goal is to help them to break out of this cycle of poverty, to become the best they possibly can, and to go on to the best secondary schools and the best universities possible. So who are we? We are a network. We currently, as you can see here, this is the number of students we have across the United States, or we had across the United States last year in the 2004-2005 years. How do our students look? 60% will be African American, 32% will be of Latino or Latin American descent, 39 are from the Caucasus Mountains, no. 39% are like most of the people sitting in this room here. We have some, it said, this is we say, what is this? 3% other, because some of the students that we have are directly from Africa, as we saw in Norway. Some of them come from Haiti or some other countries that do not consider themselves African American, so we put them in others. And we do have a small amount of Asian students. We are very proud of these facts that coming to school day by day by day, every day, that across the country we have this daily attendance, 97.8%. This is a figure that you might not understand here. In the United States, if a family's income is low, at below a certain level, those students are entitled to government meals in the school. One of the few government programs we receive are free meals for what we have here. 93% of our students across the country would receive that. So we know that that is an indication that we are serving the poor students in our country. What happens when they finish with our middle schools, which go from 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, or 6th, 7th, and 8th grade? We know that we had last year 1,064 of our students who are studying in secondary schools. We do not have our own secondary schools. We will have the gymnasium. We do not have the lyceum, because we believe firmly that there are excellent lyceums in our cities. There are very excellent Jesuit lyceums. We want to integrate our students as we prepare them very, very well to move into those schools and take advantage of all the possibilities that those schools offer, instead of we trying to create new lyceums or new high schools. At the end of last year, in 2004, we graduated this many students across the country. The majority of them went on to study in Catholic secondary schools, Catholic high schools. We had another significant number who went on to private independent schools that were not Catholic. Then this number means children who went on to public schools, but they are specialized maybe in science, maybe in art. We had 7.5 who would go on to regular public schools, and a small number who go to what are boarding schools, resident schools, where they are living there and studying 24 hours a day. From the class that graduated from our middle schools in the year 2000, 73% went on to university. So we feel that that is a big success story for us, that starting with children from a very poor background, we can get 73% going on to university. Who are we? What is it? We call it sponsorship of the schools. Sponsorship of our schools means who are the organizations, the institutions, the religious communities that assure, first, that the Catholic character of the school and the quality of the education in the school. 16 of our schools are sponsored by the Jesuits of different provinces throughout the United States. And we collaborate with the De La Salle Christian Brothers, who run 15 schools. In Egypt, you call them the Frere schools. The same brothers collaborate with us in schools. There are 20 schools, many of them just for girls, that are conducted by religious women's congregations. We have some other congregations of priests and brothers who collaborate in 3 schools. We are becoming ecumenical. The Episcopal Church is now sponsoring one Nativity school, and maybe in 2 years should have 3 more. And then we have some lay boards of trustees. These are committed, in many cases Catholics. They don't have a religious community, but they are assuring the religious quality of the school. Who are we? We insist that we are communities, and the communities are made up of the teachers, administrators. We feel that parents, and I'll explain this later, parents have an integral role in the school. The benefactors, and this is something that I think is a little different from your experiences, and I'll explain this in a little while. Students and the graduates of our school, whom we keep close in contact with and support them through all their studies. We share common vision, common values, and common mission. And I'd like to explain these at the present time. First, we'll see they go automatically. Some faces of our students. Shared vision. Each one of our schools and the administrators and teachers believe firmly that we are establishing an educational institution that will educate, support, and nurture with love children from economically disadvantaged families to reach their full potential in service to God and humanity. That's the vision of every one of our schools. The values, and these we took several years to develop and to verbalize in this form. These are the values that we focus on in each one of the schools. Christian education, yet open to children of all faiths. In some of our schools that have a majority of students who are African American, they would have few Catholics, but they might have Christians from many, many different denominations, and would also have some Muslims in their school. The focus on educating the whole person, mind, body, heart, and spirit, teaching the children to find God in themselves, in one another, and in the world. We are basically middle schools, so all of our schools will be either a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, or 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. We have, and as you'll see in a minute, which you'll probably find very strange, we have some schools just for boys. We have some schools just for girls. We have some schools in which, as in Egypt, there are boys' classrooms and girls' classrooms. And we feel this is a very important instructional methodology in our country. We offer small class sizes. Our classes are no more than 15 to 18 in each class. We have an extended day. Our students come in at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning. They don't leave until 5 or 6, or in some cases, they go home quickly for dinner and come back to the school to work until 9 o'clock at night. And we call it an extended year because all of our schools have some kind of summer experience, some kind of summer program, summer camp. The students from the schools in New York go to the mountains, some of them for 4 weeks, some for 5 weeks, some for 6 weeks. So they are learning throughout the year. We feel this is a very unique aspect. We support our students as they go on through high school and beyond. We have a specific person on our staff who is responsible for maintaining contact with those students, for bringing them together for activities, for finding out how they're doing in their secondary schools, for finding tutors if they need help in those schools, helping them to prepare for university and college, and all the other kinds of supports that they might need. We believe firmly in the value of partnership with the family. Without the help of the family, the involvement of the family, we cannot be as successful. Many of the schools have requirements that the families must do volunteer work in the school for a certain number of hours every year. We believe very firmly in establishing strong understanding of one's own culture and the culture of others, so that you'll see sometimes in the uniforms, you'll see some very striking vests that both boys and girls, African American, wear, that is made out of cloth that comes from the African countries, where they use music, they will use literature from their countries. And we believe strongly in the development of a community, again, based on mutual respect, that helps each student realize his or her full human potential in the service of God and humanity. The mission of each school is to be a middle school committed to excellence according to the vision and values that addresses the needs of children of economically disadvantaged families, preparing them well for success in high school and beyond. And our network office, myself and my collaborators, we have to support our member schools, helping them to focus on their challenges, providing professional support at a national level, and supporting the creation of new schools that will share our vision and values. So that's the work that we do out of our Nativity Network office. What do we do? We'll do this quickly. Holistic education, essentially middle schools, for students from low-income families, not tuition-driven, faith-based, small classes, extended day, extended year, parent involvement, support during high school years. Good. When did we begin? Back in this year, and you'll see a picture of this in a minute, in New York City, the first school was started by Jesuit priests and brothers who saw a lot of talent in the young Puerto Rican boys who were living in the neighborhood and said these boys should be going to Jesuit high schools. The Jesuit high schools said, but they are not well prepared academically to meet our standards. So we took the challenge. We said, we will prepare them if you will provide the scholarships for them. And so that's how we began in 1971. We were the only school, the only nativity school for a long time, until 1990, when some Jesuits in Boston and some lay people in Boston said, if they can do it in New York, we can do it in Boston. And they started a second school. In 1993, so not too long ago, some of the religious sisters said, well, if these Jesuits can do it for the boys, we can do it for the girls. So the women said, we will take them on and we'll show them that we can do it just as well and if better than the Jesuits are doing it. So they started some schools for girls, and we started to spread, not just in Boston and New York, but south and west, all the way to the Midwest. And it was in 2001 that we had about 30 schools, and we said, it's time for us to start a network so that we could all be working together to help more children coming from those economic families. Where are we located now? North, south, east, and west. Here's a picture from our first week in school back in 1971, before most of you were born. We spread to Baltimore, the girls' school in Boston, a girls' school in New York, a Jesuit school in Omaha, in Portland, Oregon, and this is one of the schools for boys in Milwaukee. This pretty much shows you where we are located around the United States. If you see the red dot, those are nativity schools. If you see the blue dot, those are the Christian Brothers schools. They call themselves San Miguel schools. We're in partnership with them. But you can see we've made it over to California, to Texas, to right on the Mexican border, throughout the South, but most concentrated up here. And we are trying to reach more and more states. Why do we exist? Well, first of all, because the gospel says, amen, I say to you, whenever you did this for one of my little ones, you did it for me. A gospel reason. Why do we exist? St. John Chrysostom said many, many years ago, not to enable the poor to share in our goods is to steal from them and deprive them of life. The goods we possess are not ours, but theirs. I want you to recognize all of our schools will be wearing some kind of a uniform. And many of our headmasters are lay people and are of the same racial background as the students. Why do we exist? As the Catechism of the Catholic Church says, those who are oppressed by poverty are the objects of a preferential love on the part of the Church. This particular picture is taken from one of the summer programs in the mountains, where the children from New York go into the mountains, and it's their first experience of hiking and living amongst nature after living so much of their life in these concrete structures in the middle of the city. Why do we exist? And this is specifically for the Jesuits. It's part of our mission to promote justice, requires above all else a personal conversion, finding Jesus Christ in the brokenness of our world, in solidarity with the poor and the outcast, so that we can take up their cause under the standard of the cross. Our sensitivity for such a mission will be most affected by frequent contact with these friends of the Lord, from whom we can often learn about our faith. There is another very important reason in the United States why our schools exist. In the United States, education is the only means to success. It's only when someone finishes high school and goes on to university that they really have an opportunity to have a decent living and a decent future. So many of the poor, the African Americans and the Latinos in my country do not finish high school, do not go on to college. We are determined to have 100% graduation rate and to send 100% to the colleges and universities so that they will be able to compete, they will be able to have their place in the world, they will be able to be as successes as we say in our vision and our values. This particular young man, whose family came as migrants from Mexico, he worked hard with us. He went on to a high school in New York City that is called Regis High School, which is all scholarship. And then he went on to Cornell University, one of the Ivy League universities in the United States. Here he has his diploma, and he is now in graduate school in California. I have another graduate who followed pretty much that same path and is now at Harvard Business School getting his master's degree from Harvard Business School. And his wife is also at Columbia Business School getting her master's degree in business administration. This is what we find is if we can help open those doors so that these poor can reach up to those heights. But even more than making it just academically, we are most proud of the fact that we have many of our alumni who come back to the schools to teach. We have them working as teachers, working as administrators. They are able to say to the youngsters who come up behind them, we were able to accomplish this, you can do it too. It's not impossible like so many in society say. No, it is possible. You can do it, just as we did. We believe strongly in in this breaking the cycle of poverty through education. That's what we're all about. In the process, we have to involve ourselves in new methodologies of teaching. We have to start with students who sometimes are 2 or 3 grade levels below average when they start, but with the extended day, the extended year, and really focusing on essentials, we hope that we can help each student reach that goal of finishing the university, probably the first one in their family to even ever finish high school. That's the formal presentation. There's a lot of other things that some questions you might have. We can talk about those, and then we'll think about that free trip to New York City. They all have gone to local government schools, public schools. We do not take them from Catholic schools because in the United States, the Catholic schools cost money. Their families would not have money, so they come from the public schools. The thing is, the public schools in the inner cities are usually the poorest, and that's why they do not have a good background. Many times we have to spend the first years bringing them up to their level in order for them to move on. In the beginning, it's making this offer of that there's a possibility of coming to a different kind of school. We want them to have a choice. Poor people don't usually have choices. They have to do what might be available for them. They have to go to this school because the state says this is the one you go to. We want them to have choices all along and choose where they want to study. So but we don't just take them when they apply. You have to go through a process. In many of the schools, it means that at the beginning of the new year in January, they will start applying for the school. But then the school will have a program where they come in on Saturdays, or they come to the school as you do at your school. They come in at certain times during the semester, so that we get to see them, they get to see us. We see how they act in the classroom, we see how they act on the sports field, and we can see which ones will fit best into our school. We also have to do some testing. If they have if they are students who have some neurological problems, physical difficulties, or they have some serious learning disabilities, we can't handle that. But if they are students who are interested in improving, and they may be a little behind, but we can help them. I want to tell one story about a young woman who just graduated from university. She went to the girls' school, Holy Child School in New York. She went into that school at the 5th grade level, and she had difficulties reading. She had never learned proper reading techniques. At Holy Child School, during her 5th grade and 6th grade, they really worked hard with her. When she finished, she won a scholarship to go to a very, very fine Catholic high school for girls. She graduated from that school #1 in her class. At graduation, you've all heard about Bill and Melinda Gates, and from the Microsoft people who have billions of dollars. They give scholarships. They give 200 scholarships a year. She won one of these scholarships to go to university. She just graduated from the university, and they are now giving her a second scholarship to do her doctorate in mathematics. And when she spoke recently, she cried and said, "If Holy Child never taught me how to read, I would probably be a single mother with 2 or 3 babies right now living in the ghetto. But because they taught me to read, they opened the doors so that I could make it to a doctorate in mathematics." So that's the kind of thing that we try to accomplish. One of the values that we have is helping them to appreciate their own culture and the culture of others. And that means tolerance for others. It means having to have programs of how to conflict resolution without ending in violence. And by reading literature from different cultures, by celebrating the festivals of different cultures, learning to talk about the different cultures. That's the way you do it. Sometimes the problem is not so much the students, because kids are kids. The problem is parents who bring a lot of the prejudices from the past. And it's easier to work with the children to overcome those difficulties than sometimes with the parents. I'd like to say something about why we have single-sex schools and single-sex classrooms, because I think for you all that's a very strange concept. Maybe in the past you had it, but not in the present. There are 3 reasons that we do it. The first is that in the past 20 years, as you will hear when you have your classes on multiple intelligences and on brain studies, we are seeing in developmental psychology the great differences in the age level of the 11, 12, 13, 14, the great differences in development between the boys and the girls. Even in brain research, they talk about the connections between the right brain and the left brain, and that this develops earlier with girls and much, much more slowly with the boys. So that you can have, and you can prove this in your own working environment, girls and women, the women in this classroom could probably be listening to me. They could also be writing notes. They might have their earphones on and be listening to another program, and they could be also working on the computer. Women can do all these kind of tasks. They're multitasked. We males cannot do that kind of thing, or with a lot of struggle and a lot of practice. And certainly young boys have to focus on one task at a time. Also, we know that in the development, that girls have a way of sitting very nicely in their seat with their legs crossed and their hands in their lap, and they will pay attention. But we know that the boys in the class, there is so much going on inside of them at the age of 12, 13, and 14, and 15 that they have to move around, that they have to get up out of their seat, or they will be trying to sit with on top of their legs or whatever. They need a different style in the classroom. And if we just say that all the boys have to act as nicely and as calmly as the girls, they can't do it. They just can't do it. And so you have to use different methodologies. We were talking before about when if I would always have my teachers get every single boy in the class to stand up and get to the blackboard during each period, during each subject class, because they need that energy to get around. But with the girls, and how this all started, in America they were seeing that girls were not focusing on math and science. They were saying, I can't do it, it's too hard, I don't like it. And so the first studies coming out of women's studies focused on how can we direct the women, the girls, to learn better and be more comfortable with math and science. And they found that there's certain techniques that work with the girls there that you wouldn't use with the boys. With the boys, it was the issue, why can't they read? Why are they having difficulty reading? Why are they the ones who are always getting into trouble? They are the ones who are in the headmaster's office. They are ones who are being punished. They are the ones who are dropping out of school. Such big differences like that. And in our culture in America, especially with the poor, especially in communities where there is so much emphasis, not by the community necessarily, but by the media, to sexual orientation and the sexual impulses, so that there is expectations, sexual expectations of the students at a very young age. It is more comfortable for them. They don't feel the pressure when they are in single-sex classes or single-sex schools. The girls will say, it is such a relief not to be bothered by those boys who are always bothering us in the classroom. The boys, on the other hand, they don't like it. They won't admit it because it's not macho to say that you don't like to be with the girls. But they will admit that they can concentrate, they can focus more on their studies. We also find that they can be more sensitive. They can say, oh, I really like this poem. This poem touches me in my heart. If there were girls in the classroom, they'd say, ooh, what are the girls going to think of me if I say I like these poems? So they're able to show another dimension of themselves when they are separate like that. So those are reasons why we separate the sexes there. That's important, yes. When we do that, especially with drama, theater, music, and sports competitions. But while they're in the classroom, in the academic situation, we keep them separate. Wojtek used this word, Cristo Rey School. You know, Cristo Rey means Christ the King in Spanish. Cristo Rey high schools are also high schools recently started. The first one was 1996 for poor students also, but at the high school level. They are unique in this. Since no schools Catholic schools in the United States receive government monies, we have to raise all our money from tuitions. If you have to raise tuition money, you cannot have poor children in the school. So Cristo Rey has developed a methodology where they contract with a company, a corporation, an industry, and say to that corporation, you give us one position in your offices, let's say as an assistant to one of the secretaries, and we will provide a student 5 days a week. But on Monday, you will have that position. Tuesday, sister will. Wednesday, you will, and Thursday, you will, and then Friday, you'll go back again. The money that the corporation gives for their work, and they work all day from 8 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. The money that the corporation gives for them pays their tuition in the school. So that is how the school is able to keep a low tuition, by having the students work 1 day a week. Now, I don't know how many headmasters would like to have 1/4 of all their students absent from school 1 day a week. It gets very confusing, but they are able to work that out. And they are having great success this way, because not only are the students learning in the classroom, they are learning how do you dress when you go to work with a corporation. How do you talk? There's one way that you talk in that situation, another way that you talk with your friends at home. How to use the different equipment. So they are learning both in school and out of school. You ask, what is the connection between Nativity schools and Cristo Rey? We are the middle school, they are the high school. Many of our students will go to the Cristo Rey school, but we don't want to restrict it to that. We want our students to go to whichever high school is best fitted for that student. Herbert would never have been able to get to Regis High School if we hadn't prepared him, but going to Regis High School meant that he was able to go on to Cornell and further education. So that's the connection. Cristo Rey works with the same group of, the same class of students, poor students as we do. They have a unique way of making you work 5 days a week to pay your tuition. That's that connection. Now, what was your second question? Oh, about expanding to Europe. How do we pay for this education? It said, one of the points said that we are not tuition driven. As I said, Catholic schools in the United States do not get any help from the government. So it's how much you pay to keep the school going. Now, Father Domenuco can correct me on this, but I think that in the Jesuit schools in New York City, probably it's like $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 in there from Xavier and Fordham, something like that. $9,000 or $10,000 to send a student to a Jesuit high school in New York City. That's a lot of money. A year, yes, a year, yeah. Our schools, the Nativity schools, the cost per student, if you average in everything that it costs to pay the teachers and all, it comes to probably about $10,000 a year. How do we get that money? We don't get it from tuition. We have to get the money from, we call them sponsors. We talk to individuals or families and we say, could you become a sponsor for this? Here is a worthy student, a deserving student. Here is another one. She deserves to go to the school because she wants to make something out of herself, out of her life. So will you and your family contribute $10,000 a year to support him? Will you support her with $10,000 a year? And in most of our Nativity schools, each one of the students has a sponsor like that. And we find that this is the best way to pay for the expenses of our school. If you go to a foundation with a project, they like new things. They say, oh, you want a new program in science, we'll give you money for the science program. But after that one time, then you don't have any more money. But an individual will say, yes, now I like the student that we are supporting. We've have a relationship there. We encourage him to go on with his studies. We will continue to support him. So we are finding that we can keep our schools going by finding wealthy individuals who will pay for that student. And we will call people like her collaborators in the mission, because if it wasn't for her supporting you, you would not be able to continue in the school. So she is a collaborator, an essential collaborator in the mission of the school. Now let's bring that to Wojciech's question. It's a question of finding, if we were going to come to Central Europe, it's the question of finding how will the school be supported. At the present time in Czech Republic, the Jesuits in Czech Republic are looking at this question. They are trying to see, they know where they would like to go, and it is a real mission. They want to go to the northwest part that was part of the Sudeten part of Poland and Germany and Czech Republic, where there is just very little religious expression of faith. There is a lot of indifference to faith, and there are a lot of gypsies, and they would like to go and serve in that area. They are looking for how can they negotiate with the government to see if they could support, if the government would support the school. They have the desire, they have the location, but they want to see how they can make it financially feasible, because they could not get sponsors like we are used to getting sponsors in Czech Republic. So what is going to be the way of financing these schools so that we're not having to charge big tuitions? Hopefully it could be possible. There's another project out of New England to do a school for girls in Rwanda, and that project is moving along. They have been getting some good aid from USAID and also from some people connected with the Rwandan embassy. So maybe Africa and maybe Central Europe. Yeah, across Latin America, in about 13 countries, this program Fe y Alegría, Faith and Joy, establishes schools, both elementary and middle and high school, and I think they also now have a university in Caracas. I spent a year with them in Venezuela, and we have a lot of similarities. Fe y Alegría works in the political economic system of South America. It would not work in the United States because they get support from the government for their teachers' salaries. We can't get that kind of a thing. We do have some connections. We have some personal connections. We know about each other, and I've gone to their conferences, and we've had some people from Fe y Alegría at our conferences. We're doing the same kind of work, but differently because of the socio-political economic situation in the different countries. We find that it's just not enough to have a class of religion. There must be the culture of the school that recognizes God is creator and God in each one of us, and we learn how to recognize that. All of our schools will have prayer in the beginning of the day, the beginning of classes, throughout the day. Most of our schools will have at least once a week what we call a chapel service. Either where there are a lot of Catholics in the school, it will be a Eucharist. In other schools that have a predominance of Protestant students, they will have scripture readings. They'll have reflections, a homily, and it's very interesting when you get the students, the African American students who are from a background of the Baptist Church, where they are used to hearing on Sunday a preacher who will preach for a long time and is very dramatic. Those boys have kind of assimilated that, and they can give these little homilies, but they are up there and they are really preaching, and it's Alleluia. And there's a real sense of praise like that. So we incorporate that. They also have retreats. We do a version of a Kairos for lower schools. They have especially in their summer programs, we've prepared students for to be baptized, to receive their first communion. So we will have that kind of sacramental preparation. But it's not just having a religion class.